A global logistics company was paying Microsoft $4.7 million per year. They had an EA, a Microsoft partner, even a SAM tool. But when we built their Microsoft ELP properly, $1.8 million in waste. Every year. E5 licenses on users who only send email. SQL Enterprise on standard eligible databases. Azure VMs without hybrid benefit. 40% pure waste. Microsoft was never going to tell them. I'm Shubh, the license nerd, and this is episode 3 of the ELP Masterclass. How to build a Microsoft ELP that actually saves money. Microsoft licensing is uniquely complex because it uses 5 different metrics simultaneously. Per user for Microsoft 365 and Dynamics. Per device for Windows and Office LTSC. Per core for SQL Server and Windows Server, with minimums of 8 cores per processor and 16 cores per server. Client access licenses, both user CALs and device CALs, for server access. And subscription licenses that reset every month. No other vendor mixes this many metrics in a single agreement. And here's the trap. Microsoft changes the rules constantly. What was compliant last year might not be compliant today. The enterprise agreement is a 3-year commitment. You can add licenses anytime through true-up, but you can only reduce at renewal. Every overpurchase stays on your bill for 3 years. The true-up is self-reported. Overreport? Microsoft happily takes your money. Underreport? Audit risk. Getting it exactly right requires a proper ELP. Step 1 of your Microsoft ELP, Entitlement Collection. Microsoft entitlements live in 4 different places. The Volume Licensing Service Center, or VLSC, which shows your perpetual licenses and SA status. The Microsoft 365 Admin Center, which shows your subscription quantities. The Azure Portal, which shows your consumption commitments. And your EA agreement documents from procurement, which contain the commercial terms. Here's the critical mistake. Most companies only check VLSC. They miss CSP subscriptions purchased through partners. They miss MPSA agreements from acquired companies. They miss OEM licenses that came pre-installed on hardware. Every missed entitlement is money you own but aren't claiming. Step 2. Deployment Discovery. For Microsoft, you need 3 discovery sources working together. First, Microsoft 365 Admin Center and Azure AD. This tells you every user with an assigned license, their actual usage, and last sign-in date. You'll typically find 15 to 25% of licenses assigned to users who haven't signed in for 90 days. Those are orphan licenses you're paying for. Second, SCCM or Intune for on-premises software. SQL Server installations, Windows Server editions, Office LTSC deployments. Third, Azure Resource Inventory. Every VM, every SQL database, every app service. Cross-reference these 3 sources and you have your complete Microsoft deployment picture. Let me show you the Microsoft ELP goldmine that exists in every organization. M365 License Tier Optimization. Most companies buy Microsoft 365 E5 for everyone because it's simpler. E5 costs $57 per user per month. But look at actual usage. Your frontline workers who only use email and Teams? They need F3 at $8 per user per month. Your standard knowledge workers? E3 at $36 per user per month handles 90% of their needs. Only your power users who need advanced security, compliance, and analytics actually need E5. In a 10,000 user organization, proper tier optimization typically saves $1.20 to $2.40 million per year. That's not a rounding error. That's a department's entire budget. Step 3. Reconciliation. SQL Server is where the biggest compliance gaps hide. Per core licensing, minimum 16 cores per physical server. With software assurance, you get virtualization rights. Enterprise with SA means unlimited VMs on licensed hosts. But if SA lapses, you lose virtualization rights immediately. Every VM becomes individually licensable. I've seen this single mistake cost companies $3 million overnight. Windows Server. Standard versus Datacenter. Standard allows 2 VMs per license set. Datacenter includes unlimited virtualization. The crossover, More than 12 VMs on a host Datacenter wins. Most companies don't calculate this. They overpay for Datacenter on light hosts or under-license standard on heavy hosts. Your ELP must map every host, count cores and VMs, and determine the optimal addition. Azure Hybrid Benefit is the single biggest optimization lever in a Microsoft ELP. If you have Windows Server or SQL Server licenses with active software assurance, you can use them in Azure instead of paying full VM pricing. The savings are massive. Windows Server VMs, up to 40% savings. SQL Server VMs, up to 55% savings. SQL Managed Instance, up to 80% savings. But here's what nobody tells you. You must track which licenses are allocated to Azure versus on-premises. You cannot use the same license in both places simultaneously, except during a 180-day migration window. Most companies either don't activate hybrid benefit at all, leaving millions on the table, or they overallocate, creating compliance risk. Your ELP must include a hybrid benefit allocation register. Step 4. True-up optimization. Without an ELP, companies overreport to avoid audit risk. That compounds for 3 years until renewal. With a proper ELP, you report exactly what's deployed. A financial services firm was reporting 8,500 SQL Server core licenses. Their ELP revealed actual deployment, 5,200 cores, overreporting by 3,300 cores for 2 years. At $15,000 per 2-core pack, that's $24.7 million in overpayment. Just from accurate reporting. The orphaned license epidemic. Employee joins, gets E5, changes role, nobody adjusts, leaves. Account disabled but license stays for months, sometimes forever. In a 5,000-user org, we find 400 to 750 orphaned licenses. At $57 per user per month, that's up to $512,000 per year in waste. Your ELP must include automated deprovisioning, monthly user-to-license reconciliation, and quarterly tier reviews. Let me give you the complete Microsoft ELP framework. I call it the Microsoft License Optimization Stack. Layer 1. Agreement Optimization. Are you on the right agreement type? EA, CSP, MPSA, or Direct? Each has different discount structures. Layer 2. Tier right-sizing. Every user on the correct M365 tier. Every server on the correct Windows Server edition. Every database on the correct SQL edition. Layer 3. Hybrid Benefit Activation. Every eligible license allocated to Azure or on-premises optimally. Layer 4. Usage-based harvesting. Reclaim orphaned, underused, and duplicate licenses monthly. Layer 5. Renewal leverage. Use your ELP data to negotiate 25 to 35% better pricing at renewal. Each layer compounds. Together, they typically deliver 30 to 45% total cost reduction. The Microsoft audit trigger you need to know about. Microsoft doesn't call it an audit anymore. They call it a license verification or SAM engagement. Sounds friendly. It's not. Microsoft targets companies that show these patterns. Declining true-up numbers without corresponding headcount reduction. Azure consumption growing while on-premises licenses stay flat. A renewal approaching with no engagement from the account team. And the biggest trigger, companies that activate Azure Hybrid Benefit without demonstrating sufficient on-premises entitlements. If Microsoft finds you've claimed hybrid benefit on 500 VMs but only own 300 qualifying licenses, that's not just a compliance gap. That's potential fraud territory. Your ELP is your audit shield. The Microsoft ELP checklist. Entitlements, VLSC summary, M365 subscriptions, Azure commitments, CSP invoices, MPSA agreements, OEM licenses. Deployment, M365 usage reports with 90-day inactive filter, SCCM inventory for SQL and Windows Server, Azure VM inventory with core counts, hybrid benefit status. Reconciliation, SQL core requirements per host, Windows Server Edition optimization, M365 tier to usage mapping, CAL verification, hybrid benefit allocation register. The transformation story. A healthcare organization with 12,000 users and a $6.8 million annual Microsoft spend. Before ELP, all users on E5, SQL Server Enterprise everywhere. No hybrid benefit activated. True-up overreported by 40%. After building their Microsoft ELP using this exact methodology, M365 optimization saved $1.4 million. Moved 7,000 users from E5 to E3, 2,000 to F3. SQL right-sizing saved $890,000. Downgraded 60% of instances from Enterprise to Standard. Hybrid benefit activation saved $720,000. Applied to 340 Azure VMs that were paying full price. True-up correction saved $560,000. Stopped over-reporting 2,100 unnecessary CALs. Total annual savings, $3.57 million. On a $6.8 million spend. That's a 52% reduction. Their Microsoft bill went from $6.8 million to $3.23 million. 5 mistakes that destroy Microsoft ELPs. 1. Trusting your partner's ELP. They earn commission on what you buy. 2. Ignoring CSP shadow purchases outside the EA. 3. Not tracking SA expiry. Losing virtualization and hybrid benefit rights overnight. 4. Building ELP only at renewal, after 3 years of overpayment. 5. Forgetting dev environments. Visual Studio subscriptions include M365 and Azure credits that developers should be using instead of production licenses. Your 30-day Microsoft ELP action plan. Week 1. Download your VLSC license summary and M365 usage report. Identify all users inactive for 90+ days. Calculate potential savings from immediate deprovisioning. Week 2. Inventory all SQL Server and Windows Server installations. Map physical cores and VM counts per host. Identify standard versus Datacenter optimization opportunities. Week 3. Audit Azure Hybrid Benefit status. List all VMs not using Hybrid Benefit. Cross-reference against your SA-covered licenses. Activate immediately where eligible. Week 4. Build your true-up accuracy report. Compare what you reported last year against actual deployment. Quantify the over-reporting gap. Present findings to procurement with a remediation plan for next true-up. For weeks. For actions. I guarantee you'll find at least $500,000 in savings in any organization over 2,000 users. Let me leave you with this. Microsoft is the most expensive software vendor for most organizations. But it's also the vendor where ELP delivers the biggest returns. Why? Because the licensing is so complex that almost everyone gets it wrong. And getting it wrong always means overpaying, never underpaying. Microsoft's complexity is designed to make you buy more than you need. Your ELP is the weapon that fights back. 52% cost reduction. $3.57 million saved annually. From one properly built Microsoft ELP. Next episode, building an Oracle ELP, where the stakes are even higher and the licensing is even more punishing. I'm Shubh, the license nerd. Subscribe, share this with your IT procurement team, and start that VLSC download today. The money you're wasting won't wait. See you in the next one.